All right, everybody. Well, I think it's time for another panel discussion. And I think, Antonia, this time you're going to moderate the panel, if I'm correct. So I'll turn it over to Antonia to moderate the panel.
Real quick, I have a question. Should we mute ourselves?
If as long as it's easy for you to mute and unmute, because
Okay.
all right, ask the question. Okay.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. Well, hello, everyone. I'm delighted to be here. What inspirational people we've had speaking. I'm so inspired by everybody who's spoken. Thank you for that. Let me just quickly introduce myself. My name's Antonia Hieronymus. I'm the chairman of Another Way to Go. It's an organization that used to be called the End Violence Project. We've been in operation for 35 years. We lead programs currently in Pennsylvania and Massachusetts and New Zealand. My colleague Grace Jones moderated the earlier session. One thing I just want to say about this is the things that I've really picked up today are just how people's humanity, just the need to sort of see people as individuals and not as numbers. And also, I think several people have said how people don't need to be fixed. You know, there's no fixing of people. People are themselves. They just have that sometimes obscured. And I just wanted to share that one of the things, the way that we describe that in our program is on week 1. You know, we'll tell people that when Michelangelo made this sculpture of David, you know, he made it from one piece of marble. It's like 9 feet tall or something. And people said, how did you do that from one piece of marble? How did you make this sculpture? And he said, well, I didn't make it. I just chipped away everything that wasn't David. And David was always whole, perfect, and complete inside the marble. And I think sort of much in the same way, we regard everyone, as has been said today before, as being whole, perfect, and complete just the way they are. But sometimes life obscures that, so that our natural, who we are, who we really are, you know, beneath everything that's happened to us, can be revealed. So that's something, you know, that we feel strongly about. It's one of the thrusts of our program. And it's great to see that, you know, people sort of reiterating that throughout the day. So I'm very happy to be moderating this discussion. We have one question in the chat, which is for Candice. Candice, I think you're still with us. And then Beth wanted to ask Candice, can you say a little bit more about your work with the church and, you know, what they actually do, what you and they actually do together in that program?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. So how the program works is we identify a church. I talk to a pastor or leadership. And can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but we can't see you.
Oh. Start my video. Is that better?
I can see you.
I can see you.
Great.
Yeah,
Great.
That's fine.
Yeah, so my job is I go to churches across Washington State, and then I identify with a pastor or take a pastor out to coffee. And I say, I want to know if your church is willing to adopt one person coming home from prison. And they look at me and I say, this isn't prison ministry. This is something different. And the way that we do that is I have to get the pastor to say yes. Second, I need leadership to say yes. Then we get to recruit a team. Recruiting a team means that we look for 7 to 10 members of a congregation that are willing to be a part of the program. Those 7 to 10 members then are the ones going to be communicating with the one person that they adopt or the person inside prison. That program looks like 1 letter a month, 1 training module a month, and 1 monthly meeting for the first year before they release. After an individual releases, it goes into just direct accompaniment. And that can really look different for everybody's individual journey.
Got it. It's great. So I have a couple of questions. So after release, you said it can just be tailored to each person.
It is. Those training modules still continue. We have 24 training modules, so 12 training modules for the year while they're incarcerated, and then 12 training modules for after. The team is still asked to meet monthly, but that direct accompaniment is what is really tailored for an individual. When you get to know somebody for a year in prison, when they get out and they need, who knows what they need? That is what the team is there for. And that's why we ask 7 to 10 members of a congregation to be supporting one person.
Got it. And is it always just one returning citizen for each parish, or do sometimes parishes say we can support more than one?
If I had 14 people sign up to be on a team, I would create 2 teams and I would pair them with 2 different people. So one team would talk to Ashley, another team would talk to David.
Got it. Wow. And how long do they sort of stay in touch forever, or how long does it last?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think that's a great question. You know, when I do my pitch to a church, which it's my life, so a pitch is a little bit, it seems a little sterile, but for me, it's real. I always say that this is a 2-year program, 4 hours a month, 2-year program. But let's be honest here. We're trying to build lifelong friendships. My hope is that you don't talk to somebody, get to know somebody, love somebody for 2 years. And then when 2 years is up, you just walk away.
Yeah. So does it normally go on for a longer period than the 2 years?
Almost every time. We have 80 teams right now across Washington State, and 98% of the time, those relationships go way beyond the 2 years.
It's so terrific. It's such a great program. Thank you, Candice. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have another question here for Tommy. The question is, why did you get relocated to Fresno? You know, I'm curious about that as well, given, you know, that you didn't know anybody there.
The reason I got relocated to Fresno is my crime was a gang-related murder, and the victim's family was concerned about me being out. And so there's a law, I guess, that I learned that I was supposed to be 35 miles from any of the victim's family, or they decided that Fresno was best for me.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. I understand. Thank you. Very clear. Thanks. I think I saw Neil Abramson with his hand up. Did I see that correctly, Neil? Did you have a question?
Well, that was my question about Fresno. So how long do you have to stay? Yeah, it sounded unfair, but that's an interesting law. How long will you have to stay in Fresno? Is there a certain limit?
December 17th, I'll be off parole and I can go home.
Oh, that's really soon. Okay.
I want to add to that, though. The only reason he's getting off parole as soon as he is because when he was resentenced, they thought he was getting out without any parole. And they had calculated it wrong. So then they had to recalculate it. And then they said he was going to get out on parole. It was the day before he was being released that they said he was going to be on parole. So the parole officer came to our house and told us that it was going to be 3 years. And I told him, I don't think so. And he said, oh, yeah. I said, no, 1.5 years max. He goes, we don't do 1.5 years. And I said, well, we'll just look into that. And because I am, anyways. So then when he called Tommy in to take him off his ankle monitor and tell him when he was moving to Fresno, he said, your wife was right. You only have a 5-month parole. That's it. 5 months of parole because he had done overtime. He should have been released in December of 2023 with his new sentence.
Got it. It's clear.
Can I add to it?
Please.
I love talking about this part because I walk into the parole office. My parole officer said, okay, I said, I can't tell you a street name. I don't know a person. He said, okay, you're a transient. I see you have a cell phone. I said, so what do you want from your transients? He said, just call me every Thursday. I was like, okay. And there was a window and she was sitting in the waiting area. I said, look, I just got on exceptional conduct. I'm not the one that you have to worry about. I said, see that lady right there? That's the one you got to worry about. Would you like to meet my wife? And so my wife came back there, and the next thing you know, she's got all these parole officers saying, why this, why that, why this? And I was like, yeah, there you go, honey.
The parole officers were helping him a lot where they wouldn't have been helping if I didn't just reach out and say what I had to say.
Yeah.
And when he said he was a transient, and I said, you took his family, his home, his job, his support. You, CDCR, took that away from Tommy. They took everything away and put him in Fresno.
Got it.
Right. Made the best
Thank
of
you.
it.
Thank you. So I have a question for Salamasina. I was really struck when you were speaking about, your emphasis on skills building and education for people. Do you think that is the main key to give people who are incarcerated skills, marketable skills and things, so that when they get out, is that going to be the main factor if they can flourish or not? You think?
Yeah, definitely. It's something that nobody can take from you. And once you start educating yourself, I believe that it's a mirror image of who you are. So the more education that I created, the more education I started receiving, my certificates and building in myself, I started believing more in myself and realizing that from where I come from and the reoccurring of keep going and living the same vicious cycle of stripping me from my humanity and giving me a DOC number and taking me from my name and just giving me and just replacing that with just grays and telling me what to do and where to go and just making sure that I didn't know how to make my own decisions for who I am. So when I'm ready to get out, that I can do those things for myself. It's just being able to educate yourself and understand the value and the morals of what that is and what that looks like, that you are worthy and that you can do these things. And once you start educating, I started educating myself. It was the change and the bridge that bridged the gap from me going back and continuing that same vicious cycle over and over again. And I think that they only give you just as much as what it is. So I feel like when you're incarcerated, they treat you like a child, and so you have childlike tendencies. You don't have to think of what you're wearing. You don't have to think about what you eat. You don't have to pay your bills. You don't have to think about, the next thing you think about is the program that's on, movie night, something that what kind of music are you going to buy, when really we need to start implementing like 2 years before you get out. Let's build our credit, right? Giving credit cards and taking that social media money and turning that into a bank account or to a trust, or learning how to become our own business owners, making sure that right now I'm putting a bill up to become a law that people do get out of prison with their driver's license, with civil survival, making sure that people are coming out of prison with their driver's license, that they're not starting at ground zero, because what they did to me was X'd out my driver's license, and I was released with an ID and had to go back in and reissue my ID, and that was another $150, or I had to reissue my driver's license. It's just little things that they do specifically to keep you from succeeding. And so it's creating new programs that will create the success for people, and understanding that they don't have to go back, and that there's different choices that can be had and be made, and putting back the humanity back into the human being is my passion.
It's really great. Salamasina, what would you say? So you said sort of, that you mentioned that there's a bridge, from being somebody who is, to use your words, like thinking about movie night and playing cards, to being someone, okay, now I'm going to get all the education I can and everything. What would you say to somebody who's currently incarcerated if you could have like a conversation to try and have them reach for that bridge? What do you think? And in your own case, can you sort of put your finger on what was it at the moment you said, okay, now I'm going to get on that bridge and transform myself and get all this education? What was the turning point, and what would you say to somebody?
I believe it starts out with the small things lead to big things. So it's mindful education. First off, it's what you tell your mind and what it is and what you create around. So once you start having the positive projection of your mind and your thinking and controlling and understanding that will project what your reality is, and knowing that whenever you have the breath of life in you, that you have a purpose, regardless if you have a life sentence, regardless if you have a short-term sentence. It's just making sure that understanding and believing in yourself that you can project education and help other people. The more that you help others, as I believe, the more I serve, I deserve, like serving is deserved for me. So it's helping others and lifting them up, and each one teach one that helps me climb my mountain and get over what I have been through and my traumas. And so I believe, like, if the lifers that are in there are educated and get their CPC certificates and educate themselves, that they can become mentors for the short timers in there and helping others so that they don't have to come back. It's just, it gives people hope. It gives life. It breathes life into other individuals. And it all comes with first starting with your own self-talk. So having these simple cohorts or classes to teach people how important what a mind can heal and a mind can kill, right? And regardless of what that looks like, your spirituality, It could be your creator, it could be your God, it could be whatever it is, but there's something on the other side that's fighting for you if you still have the breath of life in you. And I truly believe that. And so it's projecting
Yeah.
that and helping people understand that and planting that seed of love, light, and life in other people so that it can grow from them to the next person, to the next human being.
It's really great. I got it. Just as you said, it's purpose, whatever your purpose might be. And that's the thing that lifts people. Thank you. Thanks, Salamasina. I do see another hand up here. Tony Delano, I believe you have a question?
Yeah, to Tommy Lee. You're not allowed to, while you're on parole, to be near the victim's family. When you get off parole, that just goes away? Or what are the rules?
Yeah, that just goes away. There's no, it just goes away. It's from what I understand.
He's just a citizen at that point, like he'd never been incarcerated.
Okay.
He just has to go with what's right, what's morally right, and to stay away from them.
Okay. Do you have any idea how they feel or what, anything like that?
No, by law, I don't hear, I can't communicate with them. Haven't heard nothing from them.
The reason I'm asking them this is I'm a restorative justice facilitator, and it seems like there's a real opportunity there to heal, and I don't think anybody's working on it, and that's kind of sad.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Oh, 100%. They are not working on healing. Their hearts are filled with hate. They actually wrote on social media some nasty, nasty things about Tommy and where they want him to go. And that would be an after death. And we even had some death threats for Tommy from people that didn't even know him, but just listened to what was said on social media. So they're just unhappy. And unfortunately for them, they need to find healing for themselves. They really need healing. Until they heal, they're just going to walk around angry. And it was not, walking. Tommy's crime was not walking up to somebody on the streets and just shooting them or anything like that. Their brother and son was an active gang member as well. So he was living the life. And they don't accept that. They don't want to accept it. So they're just full of anger and hate.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm sorry for them. We'll be okay.
Right.
We've got a couple more minutes here. I think for all of you who spoke, well, firstly, thank you so much for speaking so eloquently and inspiringly about your experiences. It's really been moving. Does anybody else want to add something about restorative justice? What do you think of it? Do you think, how important is it, like in your own journey, or what do you think about that? I don't know if any of you want to share?
Yeah, I would like to share. Restorative justice was one of the first groups that I took when I arrived to San Quentin, September 23rd of 2015. And to see the victim-offender dialogue and it working, I would love that opportunity to do it with my victim's family, but they would have to be willing to do it, because there's a lot that they don't know, there's a lot that's been made up. They don't know the truth. I'm not going to ever speak for Tim because he's no longer here. But like Marion said, it's just I know it works. I've seen it work, and I would love to talk to the gentleman that works with restorative justice, and maybe we can make something work. That would be amazing, because everybody has to heal, of course. Like Marion said, it was gang related. I mean, it wasn't like I just walked in the store and sketched out and killed the store worker. I mean, this was like gang back and forth, and
I took the restorative justice class at the same time that Tommy did. My house had been burglarized 3 times in 21 days. I was locking the doors. I was afraid. I was fearing for my life. Once I read the restorative justice class and took the book, I realized that I needed to take my life back. I needed to find myself. And without restorative justice, I would not have been there. And we need to have people go and clean up sidewalks and give back to the community instead of just going to prison. We really need to address the issues as a society in whole, as they need to be addressed, to help people and to let them see they are loved, they are valuable, and they can pay their debts in ways without being incarcerated.
I don't know how to raise my hand. I was trying to raise my hand. I couldn't find it. Here it is. Does this work?
That's it. I see it.
Okay, thank you. Yes, my master's of science is in restorative justice practices, and I've facilitated victim offender dialogues as well. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And what I've always confronted is this fear. It's always fear that's underneath. And so I've discovered that I was always able to approach the mother of my son's victim because there was no contact between them. And depending upon conditions of his release, he's expecting lifetime probation, which would mean no contact for the rest of his life. But I was able to reach out and to approach his mother with supportive suggestions on what ways I might be able to assist for what she was needing. It wasn't about getting anybody together. She was interested in a couple of books on forgiveness and restorative practices that were related. And we met. I drove 6.5 hours. We met at a Red Lobster in Nashville. And she sat across the table from me. We prayed together. We wept together. The mother of the young man whom my son had killed. And that was an amazing experience. And that's what restorative is all about, is restoring broken relationships and healing and creating what never would have been created had what happened never happened.
Got that. Thanks, Lamar. I think Robert has his hand raised as well.
And I'll just
Robert
be really,
and Neil.
And I'll just be really quick. Marion, thank you for your partnership with your husband. And would love to have you tell your story. We were really intentional in having a family session, because what I've heard from at our other community gatherings and other family members is like that advocacy. And sometimes, you have it, and sometimes you learn it along the way, but like that advocacy for your incarcerated person is like kind of key. And so really for us to be able to empower families was really intentional and for our session 1. And so we'd love to have you all hang out with us at the end of the conference during the general networking to really start to have other family members get connected, because I think there's power in that part of community, because you did it by yourself, sort of, right? And you created your own community to really have that happen. And a lot of folks that's a tough place to navigate. And so we're really hoping we can help support that, from your all sharing. So thank you.
Thank you,
Robert. Can we take one more for Neil, please, before we go?
Yeah, we have 4 more minutes. Please, Neil.
Well, all my questions got answered, but I can make up another one. I'm curious about the importance of having a job. I mean, it's clear the importance of having a family support structure. The little I know, Salamasina and Candice both have had that. I might be incorrect, and so have you, Tommy Lee. But how about having a job? This may be more towards Tommy. Like, I know you've only been out 5 months now, 4 or 5. But do you have a job already? So, and both of you, Salamasina and Candice, both have jobs, I believe. So I just wanted to address the importance of having a job, and and what your jobs are.
Well, for me, my job was being a legal assistant with my wife and doing handyman work. And I was waiting for a job with a company called Purple so I can interpret it for the deaf community. But that everything's on hold until I go home. and can establish my roots where I'm going to reside. Everything's been on hold for the last 3.5 months. I've got just under a month ago, and I'm going to be successful wherever I'm at. So.
Right.
And Candice and Salamasina, you want to add anything to that?
So as for me, I start with Adobe on December 1st. I finally got into tech sales, so I'm pretty excited about that. Going further, I've been out a year and a half. It was really hard to find a job, so I went to entrepreneurship. So I went to entrepreneurship programs. I'm into everything from inmates to entrepreneurs to Defy to Invest. And now I'm just mentoring people on how to open small businesses. I'm now in the BNI, learning from them and growing my company with them. But I just had to learn how to navigate other avenues because of my history and because of my felony history. People wouldn't hire me. And so it became a burden to like figuring out what that looks like. And so that's where Justice Impacted and becoming like a peer mentor, reentry navigator, actually. And then also my lived experience, turning that into my lived experience, getting paid now for that, which is what I had to do. I just had to think outside the box. And then now giving those other avenues to other people and creating jobs for other people is where I'm at. So.
Well, I acknowledge you for, like, as you said, being faced with various things where people won't hire you, to just keep going and find some way that will and some way to make it work. So.
Yeah. It's like putting like all the crime and what I did and how I was in the community and just creating all that energy, but putting it toward doing it for good and repairing everything and the damage that I've caused. Like I said, turning my pain into purpose.
It's really great. Thanks, Salamasina. Candice, did you want to add to this as well?
Yeah. Well, I got my job 6 months out of prison. I started working for One Parish, One Prisoner. It was an internship, so I only got about 20 hours a week. I think a job's really important. I think when we look at reentry, people that have really strong family and might not have to work for 6 months to a year, I think we do better. We're healthier. We get control of, the triggers in society and develop those broken relationships when you come home. In reentry, I created my own business and I created my own program, and I contract with state agencies. And I have found that getting a job seems to be the one thing everybody wants because you actually need money to survive. Sure. It's just a real thing. If you're lucky enough to get out and have a family to support you, where you can have a part-time job or work as a handyman for a family member, that really tends to be the best avenue because it takes a lot to get to adjust, especially after long incarcerations, being able to know when to eat, time management, dealing with not making your own decisions. When we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the very bottom of that is shelter, food, and clothes. When we're looking at reentry, we have two different pots here. We have individuals that already have that basic need. When you're coming home to a family network or you have an OPOP team or a One Parish, One Prisoner team providing you those things, that's amazing. So now we're looking at the next couple tiers: passion, jobs, education, mentoring, or passion. But when you don't, a job ends up being the first thing. And that tends to be the harder avenue in reentry. And 90% of the individuals that are released every year are going to be on that harder pathway of reentry, where their basic needs aren't being met. They're having to get a job at McDonald's or somewhere like that. And I always have this thing. I say, you're going to be let in the front door and then swept out the back. Because when we try to work the first couple months after release, we're not ready. We're not ready to get up and take the bus and navigate relationships with coworkers and customers and what to clean and how to talk and how to interact. It's just so hard. I find most people will go through those jobs 2 or 3 times before they can land on something solid.
It's really great. Wow. You paint a very clear picture. Thank you, Candice. And I just want to say, I mean, our time is up for this session, but thank you so much to all the speakers in this section of our conference. I'm so inspired. I think everybody on the phone on who's attending is so inspired by what you do and who you are and the journeys you've been on. So thank you for sharing that with us. We're grateful that you're here today.